Hey, what's up? I'm Seth, and this is What Movies Teach, the channel where I analyze the direct and indirect messages in movies and its content to ultimately decide if it's a movie that I want to share with my kids. Okay, today I'm talking to you about Captain America, the First Avenger, one of my favorite movies in Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and a movie that I actually came into when I very first watched it with a lot of skepticism. When I was a kid, Captain America to me was actually a pretty lame character. I had seen the 1990 movie back on TV, and he was just this guy running around in a flag suit. He didn't even really have superpowers. He just had the peak physical human capabilities, but not much more than that. And I didn't really get it. I didn't really understand why he was a hero. Watching Captain America, the First Avenger, which from now on I'm just going to call Captain America, that all changed. They did a great job with this movie, and you really understand the character. In fact, that's something I understand about these Marvel movies that I didn't get from maybe the DC universe. If you guys are really into Superman and Batman, I love those heroes. I love seeing Superman in his Superman cape and his suit and his superpowers. Batman sneaking around, in his suit. But I don't really care as much about their alter egos. It's almost the exact opposite in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where Iron Man has this really cool suit, Thor has really strong powers, but it's more about the story of the characters and where they're going. So that was a lot of fun for me. This movie is rated PG-13 for a lot of action and war violence, a little bit of language. And I was trying to decide, is that an accurate rating for this movie? Is this a movie that I would want to share with my kids? I love watching movies with my kids, and I love watching movies that I'm excited about with my kids. And this is one that I went into thinking was going to be super lame, but came out really excited. So it is one I want to share with my kids, but should I? There's a ton of things in this movie and every movie that we could talk about. But I'm just going to look at those lessons that I think my kids will pick up on. And it's really hard not to spoil the movie when I'm talking about the lessons of the movie. So spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, quick synopsis of this movie, very high level. It's World War II, so the world is at war. You mostly have, in this movie, focuses on the United States and Britain against Germany. It focuses on the war in Europe, not Japan and not the Pacific. You have the bad guys, which are the Nazis initially, but then a cult within the Nazis, or that is supported by the Nazis, called Hydra. They're the real antagonist in this movie. That's the people that we're trying to overcome, to defeat. Especially their leader, Johann Schmidt, who's had the super soldier serum, which has made him go from just a regular person to peak physical condition. He's stronger, he's smarter, and he's more scary. So when I watched this movie for the first time, I remember feeling at first excited to see how they did Captain America, but then surprised about how much I enjoyed learning about Steve Rodgers. This movie is really about Steve Rodgers, this guy who just wants to help. He's sickly, he's weak, he's small, but he has great character. And you really get most of the lessons from this movie from Steve and from him trying to do what's right. You see that he still wants to serve his country. He wants to be a soldier. He wants to go and fight in the war to help defend his country against, world domination. He wants to fight against that. He wants to help. And he goes as far as faking his identity to be able to help with that. And he's got this friend, Bucky, who's just trying to protect him and says, you can't do this. You're sickly, you're small. I know you really want this, but you don't need to prove anything. And Steve, almost in defiance, is like, you don't think I can do this, but I know I can. So when the movie raises the question, you don't think I can do this, that he asks to Bucky, he responds with, yes, I can. And I'm going to keep trying until I succeed. So persistence is a big lesson in this movie. And you see him keep trying and trying and trying. Even when he's getting beat up earlier, he says, I can do this all day. He keeps trying no matter what. And that, I think, is a big theme and a big lesson in this movie. One that I actually really like is that he keeps trying no matter what. And then that persistence pays off. He's noticed by a doctor who's just looking for the right person to test this serum on. This serum that would take a person from where they're at, just where Steve's at is just kind of a sickly, weak person, to peak physical condition. But the doctor, he's trying to choose somebody who knows weakness so that they respect the power that they get. And that's another big theme of this movie, a big lesson, is the question, what are the consequences of power? You see that this doctor actually gave somebody else this power brought him to peak physical? What? Brought him to peak physical condition. His name is Johann Schmidt. They call him now the Red Skull because he was a guy who wanted power. This doctor gave it to him in this form of this serum. And he went from being this guy who had these aspirations to becoming a madman. It magnified his desires. It magnified his capability and his opportunity. And so he was a person who probably wasn't super great in the beginning. And then when he gets this serum, he becomes worse. And so the doctor's on this mission to find somebody who is a good guy. And it's not all about physical strength. It's more about the type of person that they are. Do they have integrity? Are they a good person? So they take Steve and they enlist him in the army, and he goes through a bunch of tests. You see him, climbing rope ladders, and he just can't do it. He's falling down, but he's still trying. There's this great scene where the drill sergeant is like, okay, guys, if you can climb to the top of this pole and get that flag, then you're done running for the day. And nobody can do it. The pole's too slippery. They can't get up there. And he says, okay, everybody back in line. Let's keep running. And you see Steve come over, and instead of trying to climb the pole, he looks at it and notices this peg that he can pull out, and the pole falls down, and he's able to walk over and pick up the flag. You see him think outside the box, because it's not just about physical strength, and it's not just about getting the job done in the way that people think they should. It's having creativity, it's thinking outside the box, and it's trying to succeed and solve your problems no matter what. And that's another great lesson from this movie. You see Steve really trying to use his resources, which are really a strength of character, intelligence, and just persistence to overcome his problems. So we see that finally the doctor convinces the big general in charge that Steve is the right guy to give this power to, this serum. And so they give it to him, and you see it's a really hard process. Steve is actually in a lot of pain. And that's another thing that you see from this movie, is that the acceptance of power and that the responsibility that comes with it is not easy. It's difficult. He is like yelling as he's being transformed from a skinny guy into a big, muscly guy, but he doesn't have them stop. He says, hey, I can do this. Again, that theme from the beginning. You think I can't? I can. Let me go through this. Even though it's difficult, I can do this. And he does. He has strength of character, and he persists. Again, great themes. I love this. The plan was to make an army of super-powered people in America that could go over and fight against the Nazis, could fight against Hydra. That plan falls apart when a Hydra agent comes and kills the doctor in charge. And so all they have is Captain America, and he is told to his face, you're just one guy. You are not enough. So then this is the next lesson I kind of get out of this. When you are told you are not enough, and there's something that you know you should be doing, it's okay to break the rules in this situation. That's what Steve does. He's told he can't do it, and he actually goes along with his orders for a while. He goes around parading, being Captain America, which is more a poster boy or a marketing gimmick, really, in the beginning than an actual hero. And he gets really upset. He's like, I am just a dancing monkey. I'm not really doing what I should be doing. And then again, you see that persistence come back, that very first lesson. He is told that he can't do something, but in his heart, he knows he can be more. He finds out that his best friend, Bucky, who's in the war, has been captured. And so he makes up his mind, and he takes off to go save him. And it's a great scene where you see him really come into his own and become the hero that he's supposed to be. And he goes and he saves Bucky and like 400 other soldiers. And then they say, okay, your persistence paid off once again. You can fight in the war. And there you go. So now you have Captain America, and you have these great scenes where you see him fighting. And you see him going from a nobody to a leader. But it's not just the fact that he has, additional strength, that he's a strong-looking guy, and that he's wearing an American flag. It's that he's the type of guy that people want to follow because of what he's done. It's more of what he has done than the actual person he is. He actually even asks Bucky, he says, hey, do you want to follow the symbol? Do you want to follow Captain America? And Bucky's like, no way, I would never follow Captain America. But I would follow Steve Rodgers. And that's because he's the type of person who goes and does what he feels like he's supposed to. And he's a leader, and he leads from the front, too. It's really cool because they have this whole montage of him out fighting, and every scene, he's in the front. He is the first one leading the charge. He has a shield that helps quite a bit. It's a really cool shield. But he's out there leading the charge, and he's the first one in all the missions. They even, board this train using this zip line, and he's the first one to go in, and he's the first one to be there, and he is leading with his actions. So then we get to the big final lesson of this movie, and you see that it is Captain America fighting against the bad guy on an airplane that has these bombs that can destroy the world, basically. We think, actually, I wish they would have shown one of these bombs maybe explode in the ocean, maybe go off accidentally to really see the power of it. Because in the very end, you see Steve is on this plane and he makes a decision. He knows that these bombs can hurt a lot of people, and he is so worried about it that he decides to just crash the plane. Not turn around the plane and land it somewhere else, which you think he would do. It's that he's so worried about it, he just decides to crash the plane. I didn't really understand, why he was so worried about it and made that decision he made, but he does. He crashes the plane. He makes the ultimate sacrifice. Everybody thinks he died, but again, it cements the fact that he was a man of great character. He was willing to do whatever it took for the greater good, and that he fought for what he thought was right. Wow, those were a lot of lessons that I got out of this movie, and I like all of them. So the big question that is the whole reason why I actually analyze these movies is, should I share this film with my kids? Let me talk a little bit about the content. I mean, it is a war movie, so there is more violence. In the realm of violence, I think it's pretty tame for a World War II movie. But there's still blood, there's still shooting, there's people who are shot and they're killed. There's actually two scenes that stick out to me as far as violence. So there's one scene where Captain America is chasing a Hydra agent, and this Hydra agent shoots this old lady. And for some reason that stuck out to me. And then he's shooting at other people as well. You don't know if civilians are getting hurt or not. And it raises the stakes. But you do see some blood spurts when people are shot and things like that. Another scene is when Captain America is fighting a guy at the very end. He throws him off a plane and he gets chopped up in the propellers of the plane. That's pretty bloody. It's fast, it's a quick scene, but it's a little gruesome. And then there's regular kicking and punching and shooting and fighting, and it's a World War II movie. But the language is pretty light. I mean, I don't really even remember anything that really stuck out to me as far as language is concerned. As far as, sexual situations, there's like one kissing scene, but that's not really that bad. And so, yeah, that's the content of the movie. I do wish women were better represented. It is almost a reflection of the times back in the 40s. I feel like women were super misrepresented there, and they still kind of are. There's one female character, Agent Carter. She is a strong character, and you see her actually in the end out there fighting with everybody else, but it is just kind of a minimal role, and you see her kind of just put as the love interest of Steve, and doesn't really contribute much more than the motivation of that. As far as like maybe an age range that I'd give to this movie, I think it does sit where it's been rated. I don't always agree with ratings. They're subjective. They're people in a room trying to decide. I would probably wait to, if I was going to let my kids just watch it on their own, be a little older, 13, 14-year-old, and make sure that they have an understanding that this is fantasy. This is a war movie. War is hard. War hurts people. People are in a lot of difficult, dangerous situations, and make sure they have that understanding. However, would I share this movie with my kids right now? My 5 and my 8-year-old, probably not. They don't understand the complexities of war. My 10 and my 12-year-old, I'd like to, actually. I feel like these themes are important and that they would get a lot out of them. I would consider censoring some of these parts, these little maybe gory parts I think would stick out, especially to my 12-year-old. It might stick with her and detract from the themes. So I might do a little self-censoring. My parents used to do that growing up, fast forward through a couple scenes they didn't like. In fact, I watched a lot of movies growing up on TV. Most movies when I was growing up were put on TV and then they were edited for broadcast. And so they took out all the things that would make it PG-13 or rated R, and they removed all that. So I'm actually okay with censoring because I grew up with that. I know some people are like, oh, that destroys the artistic quality of the movie. And again, that's your own personal call. This one I think I would want to show to my kids with maybe just a little bit of editing. But yeah, that's it. That's Captain America, the First Avenger, a movie that I went into not really expecting to enjoy, a superhero I wasn't really behind. Then I came out having this be one of my favorite superhero movies up to this point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's really fun. I love the character of Steve Rodgers. You want to be like him. You want to be as good as him. You want to have that strength of character. And I think that's a great thing. Okay, so there are some questions that I'd probably talk to my kids about after watching this movie just to see what they understood. I'd want to ask them, how do you think Steve solved his problems? Or what did he do to do that? Do you agree with his methods? Do you not? I would ask them about how you saw people change with the super soldier serum. I would ask my kids, what would you do if you had the super soldier serum? I would ask my kids, how do you be a good leader? I would ask my kids, what do you think is the consequences of giving people power? I would ask my kids, is power bad? Is power good? I'd like them to have that concept. Is it about the power or is it about the person who wields it? It's more about decisions. I try and kind of lead that conversation. Then I might ask this question. I mean, what if Steve was from a different country and he was Captain Brazil or Captain Britain? I think there actually is one of those in the comics. And just kind of see what they think about that. So just a couple of questions that you can ask afterwards. I mean, I'm sure you can come up with your own. And if you have some other ones that you would like to ask that you think were kind of spurred by the themes of this movie, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, so that's it. That's my review of the lessons and the content of this movie, and my final decision. It is one that I want to show to my older kids. What do you think? Do you guys agree? Would you show this to your kids? If so, comment below. If you like this, hit the like button below. If this is helpful to you as a parent and you like these types of reviews, then hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you next time.